Hey everyone, I'm Keegs, and I wasn't really that excited for House of the Dragon, still having that bitter taste of Game of Thrones in my mouth, but I thought, screw it, let's give it a chance. And overall, it wasn't bad. I mean, at the very least, it was unoffensive setup for the next season, and I think the production value was huge, and the actors were actually pretty good in it, so that's a huge win. I mean, the first season of Game of Thrones started off pretty slow too, so this is about on par for that. I'm not sure if the deaths are less crazy or I've just become completely numb to people dying in the Game of Thrones world. Probably that one. But I was actually expecting more people to actually die in this than actually ended up dying. I think that can kind of be tied to the fact that there aren't really any characters I'm rooting for in this show. It's just kind of like I'm watching all of this stuff happen. Whereas in the original Game of Thrones, there was, to me, what seemed like a protagonist at the beginning, so you were kind of rooting for that person, and then they die, which is just shocking. But here, pretty much anybody that dies, I wasn't like really invested in. I thought Rhaenyra's baby daddy could have been a cool bloke, but he died in pretty sure the first episode that he was introduced in, so I didn't really have a lot of time to get emotionally invested in him, and Rhaenyra also didn't really seem to be that broken up about it when he died, so why should I be invested? I did like King Viserys, but I thought he was gonna die in probably the first episode as soon as he got that cut that wouldn't heal. To me, that seemed like, oh, yep, he's dead right away, but that fucker lasted another 20 years. I mean, that guy lived a pretty good and long life, and he died happy when his whole family was happy at the dinner the last time he saw them, so really, he lived a pretty good life, and you can't be sad for him for that. For such a slow-paced show, it actually almost felt too fast with all the time jumps for how quickly we were moving through the era, so a little ironic there that a slow-paced show ended up feeling a little bit rushed in parts. The lowest point of this show for me was the whole scandal with Rhaenyra hooking up with her uncle, because I thought, literally, who cares? I mean, the crown at this point should just be like, yeah, nope, that didn't happen. Even if it did happen, you just say, nah, it didn't happen. And that's the end of it. There should be no further inquiries to this. You should just tell everybody to shut the hell up and move on. I don't understand. Like, they don't have proof. There's no video surveillance that's going to get out. Like, what, anytime there's a rumor, you're just going to have to, like, play it off like, oh, we have to get to the bottom of this. But literally anybody can start a rumor that she was hooking up with her father if they wanted to. What, is he going to question her on that one? Because if it was this easy for the princess to get thrown under the bus, I don't even understand why you waited for it to happen. Just make something up and boom, there you go. All of a sudden a false rumor comes out and your plan works just as intended, because apparently the court has no way to deny a false accusation. I think the show really picked up though after the kids kind of grew up and the adults were now in those same exact roles. I thought a lot of the drama when they were kids was entirely unnecessary. I probably would have been okay with like 1, maybe 2 episodes with the kids in it, and then we get it, okay, these people are friends, this dude cut that dude's eye out, and moving on. But Rhaenyra's kids are clearly not of a Velaryon blood, and that's kind of part of the whole gossip of this entire show, is that her kids are actually bastards because they all have black hair instead of blonde hair, which also, I don't get that. Why did none of them have blonde hair? That seems very odd to me, considering Alicent, all of her children have blonde hair, though she doesn't have blonde hair. So what, are they saying in this world that literally the father's hair color is the only hair color that the kids could be? I don't know. Seems like bullshit to me that she didn't get one kid with blonde hair. Daemon was fantastic in this show, and he is someone I definitely wanted to see a lot more of. I'm not saying I'm exactly rooting for him, because he's kind of a horrible person, just like most everybody else in this show, but damn, he's fun to watch. I also think that they're trying to show that Aemon is basically just a mini version of Daemon, because, I mean, he's the second-born son who's not really in line for the throne. He's a great warrior. I mean, he looks just like him. Basically, all his qualities are an exact mirror, plus he's got a really badass crystal eye now. I think the show is really trying to get us to root for Rhaenyra, especially how it ended, plus the fact that Alicent is just unbearably annoying a lot of times. So I guess that's who I'm going to root for, with the exception of Aemon, because I think he's also really fun to watch, probably because he's just a mini Daemon. So I think things are going to get really interesting for him next season, since he murdered the prince. Obviously, he didn't want to kill the kid, but as soon as his dragon took a fire breath to the face, he thought, I will not let this insult go unpunished, and snapped him in half. Now, I think it's really interesting to note that Aemon wasn't able to control Aegar within the battle, which I think is going to become very important, considering I think next season there are going to be a lot more battles, so it seems likely that Aegar is going to kind of have a mind of its own, and just probably incinerate friends, allies, enemies, doesn't really matter. Anyone standing in that path is probably dead from that dragon. Also, you knew the dragon was the biggest of all the dragons, but my god, that thing was gigantic when you saw it up against the other dragon. I didn't really like Alicent's reason for usurping the throne, just based on a miscommunication in his dying breath. I mean, the dude was delusional, so it felt a little forced, because Alicent thinks she's on this righteous path, where I really feel like you could have just not had Alicent try to think she was on a righteous path. I don't think anyone's rooting for her at this point, so we don't need a reason to watch her try to take the throne. Like, again, with these false accusation BS, I mean, what's to stop her from just making any of this stuff up, whether the dude said it or not? I mean, why didn't she just always say, like, oh, that was always his last breath? Like, she could have said that without him actually saying that, and we would be in the exact same situation, because there were no witnesses there. I mean, what, is everybody in King's Landing such an upstanding citizen that they would never lie to sit atop the Iron Throne? That's inconceivable. And I know a few people were killed for not bending the knee there, but it felt like there probably should have been a little more pushback, considering how well defined and established the succession plan is. Like, I feel like there should have been a lot of guards that were like, I guess the head guard like resigned there, which is good, but it just felt like there should have been more guards to say, hey, hold up, wait, we were told very explicitly what to do if the king dies, but what, all of a sudden someone else can just step in because the king's not there anymore, even if it is the queen? Like, I mean, to me, that just felt like there should have been a more clear-cut picture of what to do when that happened, especially since the king was literally on his deathbed for like 2 years. Like, how did you not have time to go over this? Also, I feel like Rhaenyra should have just stayed in King's Landing. I mean, Viserys was basically on his deathbed when she left, so it doesn't really make sense to go all the way home, because I'm pretty sure as soon as you get there, you're going to get the note that he died. Even if Alicent didn't try to betray you there, then I feel like it would have kind of been a wasted trip to go all the way back home just for him to die very quickly. It seems like it would have made a lot more sense for you to stick around for a while and maybe claim your birthright. King Aegon didn't really even want the throne, but now that he does have it, he does kind of like all the worshippers he seems to have, though he seems kind of like a baby, and he gives me strong Joffrey vibes, and we already know that he makes his children fight to the death, so I wonder if he's going to be a very lovable king or not. Rhaenyra was about to let the conversation die too and not make the first move, but now I think she is going to be going on a warpath next season, and I would not be surprised to see her now rule over a bunch of ashes when her dragons go in and just burn the whole city to the ground. She talked about not wanting to rule over ash and bone, but I think her tune might have changed on the subject matter now that her son was brutally murdered. I'm also hoping for a few less scenes of childbirth, and especially women dying in childbirth next season, because, like, okay, I get it, you have a lot of tough childbirths back then, but it's starting to feel like the only way Martin knows how to kill off women is to have them die in childbirth. So I'd like to see a little creativity next season and, kill off some women in different, more equal ways. I really enjoyed the White Worm, too. I thought she was a really interesting character, and obviously she's fighting for the common people, so, you kind of start to root for her. I'd like to see her more, but honestly, because I'm starting to root for her, I'm sure she's going to die next season. But it does feel like she is starting to spin a lot of webs and make a lot of plans, trying to better herself and the people, so she just seems like a very noble woman. Sir Criston, on the other hand, I would not be upset if I saw him die, because the dude is just so insecure that it is very annoying to watch him at this point. He is very unsure of himself, and he keeps simping for Alicent, and it's just not very fun to watch anymore, and he just feels like he's going to lose it at any moment and just kind of crack and break under the pressure. I mean, he already kind of did that earlier in the season when he went and told Alicent about, all the crap, he slept with the princess, so he should be killed. But, it always feels like he's on the verge of breaking, I feel like. I also would not be upset to see the foot fetish guy not much more again, because that was mostly just uncomfortable. I know I had a lot of gripes about this season, but I actually did have a really good time, and I'm surprisingly enjoying being back in the land of Westeros. I think we're going to see probably a time jump next season to maybe the family's already at war, and I definitely want to see the Starks, as I'm sure a lot of people do. But let me know what you thought of Season 1 of Hot D, and what you think is going to be happening in Season 2. I'm Keegs, and I will catch you all next time for some more House of the Dragon content.